Look, man, it's time to finally debunk the fantasy of Matt Riddle's MMA career. It's time to debunk it. I need to educate you wrestling fans who don't know shit about the UFC and MMA. I have to debunk this because nobody else is trying to debunk Matt Riddle as a fighter. That man was trash. He had awful fundamentals and he couldn't strike. He couldn't stand up at all. He had awful ground fundamentals. He had no ground game. He had no strike game. All his wins came from low-level fighters. That guy was trash. He fought in the UFC when the UFC was still trying to figure out their division that he was in. Kind of like Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor was cleaning out his division because it was still kind of fresh. Nobody knew where that division was going. Nobody knew the standards at the time. Now, fast forward, this year, he's so behind. Everybody is ahead of him. The game has changed now. He's no longer a threat. People figured him out because he was in the UFC when his division was fucking weak. That was Matt Riddle back in the day. He wasn't that good, man. He was trash. He wasn't that good as a fighter. Don't get it twisted. He's not a tough guy. He can't beat everybody in the business of professional wrestling. It don't work that way. He wasn't that good of a fighter. If he returned to UFC now, he will get killed. He will get destroyed, man. Get the fuck out of here, man. I'm sick of you. I'm tired of you fucking wrestling fans that assume every guy from the UFC who jumps into pro wrestling, he could beat any wrestler in the fucking locker room. That ain't true at all, man. That ain't fucking true at all. At all. Alright, so look, man, I'm getting tired of this Matt Riddle guy and the ego on this fucker. I'm like, ever since he got into wrestling, he thinks he's above everybody because he has MMA training. It's so fucking stupid. I'm like, I was trying to like him the past couple of months with this whole RK Bro crap. I was trying to like him. But now he's getting out of pocket with his fucking mouth. He's getting out of pocket with his pointless mouth. Like, I'm hearing in an interview, this dude said he would beat up Roman Reigns in a real fight. I'm like, who cares? This is professional wrestling. There is no real fighting, so who gives a fuck? You can say the same thing about Chad Gable or Otis. Guys like that, like, who are you above? Gable Stevenson can probably beat up a lot of guys in professional wrestling in a real fight, but who gives a fuck? This is professional wrestling. Nothing isn't real anyway. So why do you care? Like, Kid Shamrock could have beat up The Rock in a real fight, probably. Most likely. But who cares? What's the point of even bringing that up? Nobody gives a fuck. Like, nobody cares. Like, Steve Blackman was a low mid-card guy, but in a real fight, he could probably beat up Stone Cold Steve Austin, but who cares? That's not professional wrestling. Nobody cares about that. Nobody cares about real fighting. Shit, probably Bruce Lee could probably beat up Hogan back in the day. Who cares? This is professional wrestling. I don't care about who can beat up who in a real fight. Nobody gives a fuck. But let me get back to Riddle on this whole. I'm a former UFC guy, so I'm above everybody. I could beat everybody, bruh. You can't. Matt Riddle, I seen you in the fucking UFC. You wasn't really all that good. You wasn't Connor. You wasn't Chuck Liddell. I'm like, this nigga act like he was Ken Shamrock or something, who transitioned into pro wrestling, bruh. Dana White didn't lose sleep when you walked away from the UFC, you fucking weed head. He didn't lose sleep when you walked away and went to fucking pro wrestling. He didn't give a fuck. Cause you wasn't really all that good. And guess what, Matt? You wasn't the size you are now in MMA. Matt Riddle was like, what? I think he was a fucking welterweight. No, what? He was a featherweight? Something. He was like in the 170s. When he was in the UFC, he was in the 170s, but when it came to his weight. So if you were really good, how come you didn't move up in weight class? Right now, he's like, what, 215? But when he was doing MMA, he was light as fuck. He was in the 170s. He was like CM Punk. CM Punk had to diet down to 170 because he knows he would have got fucked up in the 205 weight class. Matt, you are not a tough guy, man. What you were in MMA, you was that at a lower weight. Let's be honest. You will get fucked up at your current weight in the UFC if you didn't go down in weight classes. Matt Riddle will get fucked up in the 205 division. If he went back, he would get fucked up. Because that's not what he was fighting at. He was fighting at 170. Maybe 172, 173. I seen a fight of his. I seen one of his fights. This dude was getting grounded and pounded. And he got choked out. He wasn't really all that good. So yeah, amongst professional wrestlers who never went into MMA, yeah, of course, you could probably beat them up. Probably. Not all. This notion that, oh, I'm a trained fighter in MMA, that means I could beat up any guy in the fucking world. Man, fuck you. No, you cannot. Ask Conor McGregor how that worked out for him. Ask Ben Askren how that worked out for him. Ask Tyron Woodley how that worked out for him. MMA guys are not the toughest guys in the world. Boxers are the toughest human beings walking this earth. That's why when they transition into MMA, that's why when these UFC guys go into boxing, they get fucked up. Because they didn't train their bodies to last extra rounds. When you're a boxer, you have to last 8 to 12 rounds. That'll happen in MMA. It's usually 2 rounds or 3 rounds. 5 rounds if you are in the fucking main events. That's why boxers make more money than UFC guys. That's why. Because the hardest combat sport in the world is boxing. It's not MMA. UFC guys get paid the lowest out of all combat sports for a reason, because MMA is easy compared to boxing. In a real fight, I'm taking Mike Tyson over fucking Chuck Liddell. I'm taking fucking Holyfield in his prime, beating the fuck out of Daniel Cormier. Come on, man. I'm taking Lennox Lewis in a real fight over Anderson Silva. It's like, bro, I've seen guys in MMA get fucked up at bars. I've seen guys in MMA get fucked up by regular people. That shit don't translate into real fighting. How come people don't get this? MMA training don't translate into street fighting. That's like saying street basketball is the same as NBA basketball. That's what you're saying. That's like saying all the guys from the N1 mixtape tour can play in the fucking NBA. That's like saying they can translate that crap into the NBA. No. It's like, just because you're a trained fighter don't mean you can beat up guys in a regular fight. Ask Kimbo Slice when he was doing backyard street fighting on YouTube. Then he tried to transition into organized fighting. It didn't work out for him, did it? He got put to sleep within seconds in his first fight in MMA. I'll never forget. I love Kimbo Slice, but yeah, he got fucked up in his first fight. But it's like, oh my gosh, man, like I'm sick of Matt Riddle, man. I'm tired of Matt Riddle. I'm trying to like him, but he's just speaking out of pocket. Let's talk about Anthony Ogogo from AEW, a boxer turned wrestler. He will fuck up Matt Riddle within seconds. He would fuck him up in seconds. It's like Matt Riddle, he talks like a tough guy, but bruh, you was in MMA what 8 years ago, nigga. This is 2021. Come back to this era. Your last fight was years ago, almost a decade ago, bruh. You was skinny. You wasn't as big as you are now. You was doing MMA when you was tiny. When you was a frail 170-pound man, you was doing MMA. You wasn't doing it at this size that you are. So how do you know if you went back into MMA, you would do good? That's no guarantee. You are a trained professional wrestler. Act like it now, man. You are no longer an MMA fighter. That don't give you a fucking hall pass to say you can beat up any guy on any roster in professional wrestling, because you cannot. It don't work that way. Facts. Mike Tyson in his prime can beat up every UFC fighter in their history in a real fight. Facts. James Toney in his prime can beat up Rampage Jackson. Can beat up Tito Ortiz in a real fight. Because all that takedown bullshit don't work in a real fight. A boxer's hands are lethal weapons. He's trained to punch people in their face for a living for 12 rounds. All right? It's not a game, man. Ask Logan Paul when he thought he can beat up Floyd Mayweather in a boxing match. When it comes to a street fight with no rules, I'm taking a boxer over a MMA guy any day of the week. Any day of the week. It's not even close. There's a reason why UFC guys get paid the least. Because their profession is easier than boxing. Boxing is fucking hard. That's why they get paid the most. That's why Deontay Wilder gets paid millions beyond millions of dollars per fight. Because boxing is fucking hard. But Matt Riddle, man, calm down, man. Who cares if you can beat up Reigns in a real fight? Like, first of all, that ain't a fucking guarantee. That's not a guarantee you can probably beat up Reigns in a fight. That's not a guarantee, man. Reigns is a badass his damn self. He's fucking Samoan. They love fighting. Reigns played in the fucking NFL. He's a former college football player. You gotta be a badass to play football. There's guys in football that transitioned into fighting in the UFC. Greg Hardy. It's like, bruh, Reigns has a very strong athletic background his damn self. He's a big dude who knows how to fight his damn self. If he wants to. But come on, Matt. Like, calm down, man. Brock Lesnar will fuck you up. Anthony Ogogo would fuck you up. Lashley will fuck you up. I mean, Josh the Goods Woods from ROH can fuck you up. All right? Ken Shamrock, Dan Severn can fuck you up. You're not a tough guy, man. You wasn't in the UFC for a long time. You wasn't all that great either. When did Matt Riddle turn to the baddest man on the planet? This nigga had a cup of coffee in the UFC, and all of a sudden he think he's the baddest man in professional wrestling. Man, fuck you, man. You are not no tough guy, man. You're not a tough guy. You wasn't a great fighter in the fucking UFC. You was a underneath guy in the UFC. You wasn't really all that. I seen you. How are you this big tough guy now? You Tyson now? This nigga said he can beat up Chris Jericho in a real fight. Like, who cares about that stuff? Nigga, if you want to fight guys for real, then just quit wrestling. Take your ass back to the fucking UFC then. Because it seems like you have an itch to fight. Okay, quit wrestling then. Quit wrestling and take your ass back to the UFC. And get knocked out. Take your ass back to the UFC and get knocked out by John Jones. Just go back if you are that hungry to fight again. All right, man, I'm done.